Hello, here are business stories on Business Television Africa. I am Emmanuel Abuajiriafe. Coming up in this bulletin, the Ghana Shippers Authority has organized a consultative meeting between key stakeholder authorities to help combat challenges confronting importers and exporters. Also, the Parliamentary Select Committee on the Environment has organized a program for implementation of climate change on agriculture and food systems in Accra. Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement Systems (GIPS) says banks that operate on Microsoft operating systems must upgrade their automated teller machines (ATMs) before the 8th of April 2014 or risk being targets for cyber attacks. And after many years of delay, construction of the largest wind power project in Africa is set to take off as financing agreement is finalized. Now the details. Importers and exporters are persistently confronted with a number of challenges which negatively impact on revenue generation in the country. To address some of these challenges, the Ghana Shippers Authority has organized a consultative meeting between key stakeholder authorities to seek ways of combating such challenges.
In recent times, Ghana importers and exporters have endured the consequences of congestion at the port as they try to clear goods. As a result, they have no other choice but to pay increased demurrage for keeping their wares beyond port stipulated holding times. Furthermore, related port authorities and other institutions have been too rigid with checks at the port of entry and have subjected importers and exporters through many checks, therefore delaying good clearance in the process. These and many other challenges are what compel the Ghana Shippers Authority to bring together key stakeholders such as the Ministry of Trade and Industry, Ghana Standard Authority, the Food and Drug Authority, representatives from Customer Excise and Preventive Service, the Environmental Protection Authority, and the Ghana Ports and Harbour Authority, among others, to spell out their core mandate and to also answer questions from importers and exporters with regards to trade facilitation. The Chief Executive Officer of Ghana Shippers Authority, Dr. Kofi Mbia, explained the importance of such a forum.
This meeting particularly is in consonance with the Ghana Shippers Authority Regulations LI 2190. You would all recall that for quite some time now, we've been trying to look for a legal framework that would allow us to engage a lot more, because we believe that if we engage a lot more, if we share information, if we educate our stakeholders, we can remove some of the bottlenecks that attend to the business of international trade and transport. You all know the year 2013 was a very difficult year. We had a number of challenges. Despite all of those difficulties, we had a lot of congestion at the ports. There were a number of issues that were brought to the fore. I'm sure almost all the stakeholders here have played a part in ensuring that we streamline our procedures for clearance at the ports so that we can, in total, reduce the cost of doing business at our ports, make our ports more competitive as far as the sub-region is concerned. And I would say that the efforts have been laudable. There's been some improvement, but I can also tell you that there still remain a lot of road to cover. You know, we instituted new measures in the course of last year with respect to scanning, with respect to the movement of trucks, e-tracking. All of these still have not solved the problems in their totality. Recently, I had opportunity to meet with the executives of the Greater Accra Shipper Committee, and they brought a number of problems to the fore. So, looking at the mandate given us under LI 2190, the regulations, we thought it would be appropriate to hold a consultative meeting such as this, highlight some of the key issues, those that we believe we can address by ourselves through education. We provide that education to the other players, because we have here those who provide the services and those who consume particular services. The idea behind this interaction is to ensure that those who provide the services can provide adequate information for those who consume the services. So the consumers of the services become aware of the procedures which have been outlined and which are being followed. We still continue to have a number of challenges in that regard, especially when I talk about the destination inspection companies and the complaints which we receive regarding importers and exporters. We have emphasized that we need to get to the stage where importers can beat their chest and say, my invoice is genuine, and I believe it is 100% genuine. My declaration is genuine, and it's 100% genuine. We want to get to the stage where the DIC can say, they beat their chest and say, when you drop your document here, in 12 hours, you would get your document back full and complete. Those are the things which we outline, which should be benchmarks that we should be aiming at. I keep saying that going forward, we should be looking at an industry that allows people to sit in the comfort of their offices, do all their entries, make their payments in their offices, and only have a driver drive their container to where they need them to be. That is where we ought to be getting to. We need to get to a stage where once you have imported and you are informed that your goods have arrived, you know that at most within 24 hours, your cargo would be on the premises or the location where you want it. And I believe this consultative machinery should help us to figure out some of the key elements that we need to address to streamline the process so that we create efficiency for the business. That efficiency should lead us to reduce the cost of doing business and consequently make us competitive not only within West Africa but in the global arena.
Various bodies and agencies were also given the opportunity to explain how they operate and the challenges currently confronting them.
First thing for any importer is to register. We realize people who are not registering. We want to know the importers and do risk analysis for the importers as well as the products and the origin of the product. I'm sure you are aware that certain products, when they come from certain countries, you will want to withdraw from them. Certain products too, you want to withdraw from them. And certain importers, the way they behave, we should know them. So you register. Registration is not closed. It is opened throughout the year. All we are saying is pick a form, register, tell us the products that you want to import. The first three, you can add to the list any time. But people do not do it. So we found a way out. We've linked up with GCNet. If you are not registered, the GCNet will not make itself available for you to clear your products. And you see people running to us. At the last quarter of the year, you just give us an idea. Even if you say you import fridges and you are not importing fridges, you can inform us, we will change. That's why I said it is not closed. It's open all the time. So let us know. So the first thing, for the miners, I don't think we have a specific, it is the same procedures that the miners will have to follow. Register with us, tell us what products you are bringing in throughout the year, and the list which is opened, you can add to it, you can take it out. So additions and subtraction is opened. And the procedure after you've registered, the standards, we are not using standards. And my friends, if we don't go by standards in all aspects of activities in the country, we are bound to fail. People have used standards in everything. Doctor was telling us when they want to do microanalysis or whatever, they have a standard, they go to where they have to go. After you have registered, you should buy the standard. It is not expensive. Buy the standards, know what the specifications are required for whichever product you want to buy, and then make a contract with the supplier. So that when it comes, because before your products will be accepted in, the first thing is certificate of analysis of conformance. That is the only way we can say, the basic principle of the destination inspection is based on conformity assessment. That is indirectly or directly finding out whether a product or a service or a person or whatever, or procedure or system conforms to what? Applicable standards. So if you don't, and we are asking you to bring certificate of analysis or certificate of conformance to cover your product. And the delays we have, and the delays you want for yourself is when you don't add conformity of assessment, certificate of analysis. So samples will have to be taken because the principle is based on what? Conformity assessment. We'll take samples and have it analyzed, but we have to do it in such a way that we don't waste your time. So that is it. And then the labeling. We are having a series of problems with labeling of goods. And therefore, but we've gone around this thing. If the quality is okay and the product is the labeling, we allow you to what? Take it from the port, put it in a warehouse, and then we supervise the relabeling. But we are thinking twice. Some of you, especially, let's take the CFL bulbs. 85 watts. And the higher the wattage, the higher what? The price. We test 85 and it's giving us 30-25. We ask them to go and relabel. They've already made the box. So what do? They put a sticker there. Sometimes the stickers that can be removed without harming the packaging material. So now, maybe I'll take this opportunity to tell the importers. First, relabeling. Second one, no third relabeling. You can relabel when you change the box and make sure that the product whose wattage is 25 is on the box, not a sticker. Because you are deceiving. It is fraud. You are telling the consumer the bulb you are selling to him is 85 watts, but in actual fact, from testing, it is only 25. Just because the importer does not give the standard specifications. So these are some of the things. The labeling is a problem for us. Some come in languages which are foreign. We don't understand. So the question we ask ourselves at the standards bodies, are those importers or they are shoppers? Because if I go to Russia and I'm buying things super, most of them will be in Russian language. So when I bring it to Ghana, what do? And you are asked to relabel, and there's a waste of time. So I will expect that the importer, fine, you may want to buy it from the supermarket because maybe the prices, but make sure the labeling is done. It's a requirement. It's English and in any other language, because we don't have only English people living here, but majority are English-speaking people. So give us the language that we understand, because the labeling is to help us to alert the consumer. Some people are allergic to certain ingredients. Some people don't want other things. Tell us so that when we are buying, we buy our money's worth. So we go through these things. You give us the information. When the product comes, we only do conformity assessment with other stakeholders at the port. I think previously there were problems with sampling, organizations taking samples, but I think, I was at the ministry for a period of time, but I've been informed that this sampling, drawing of sample is being done by just the Ghana Standards Authority. And then we do the analysis and we pass on the information to the other stakeholders. So that should not be a problem as we have it. So what you should also know that we do not give the final clearance of goods from the port. We look at the quality and the customs, Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue will give the clearance. But sometimes some things move out. I want to say it here, from the port when we have not finished. So all stakeholders must go according to the procedure, the rules laid down, if we want to have a better system. But then people have to find a loophole and go around it. And at the end of it, we suffer and we complain that the goods on the market are substandard and not good.
Why should we in customs uplift values, particularly when the importer of the goods thinks he has provided with the price at which the goods has been purchased, or because the destination inspection companies have done valuation and therefore you expect that they should have provided, or they would have provided, the value that we need for purposes of customs taxation. The issue goes the core of the matter is about the challenges involved in valuation. Valuation is a whole matter by itself, and you have opinions. Because of time, I'll cut it very short. And I'm not going to go to the professional area so that everybody can understand the way I understand it very well. What we do when we talk about value, Mr. Chairman, in this case is we want to get the price at which the product, the person importing the goods in this particular case, paid, or the price which should be paid, which is what we intend to use for customs valuation. It's not as easy as this to say that you can determine the price. Not talking to the technical issues, you have different ways of trying to get the value. You are either in touch with the supplier, and therefore you can confirm that the invoice which the importer has provided is the actual invoice or the price sold to the person. In the absence of you having the contact or the contact with the supplier, you have other methods, including going to the market to look at the average prices, taking to your database and looking at the period you are dealing with, and then looking at other methods. WTO has actually set out the criteria for determining prices, the value. What I will say here is that in our case, one, in a number of cases, you will determine that, or let me talk about us and the DICs. While we always try to agree with the DICs, particularly because we think they are doing the good work, we will also understand that they work based on the documents they receive. The evaluation is based on documentary check, what they see in the paper provided. One of the reasons that will uplift the value is when we go to the field to look at the product itself. When we conduct examination, and then you can see that what is on the ground and what is on the document aren't the same. The man has brought an LCD television set, but describes it as just a normal TV. If he doesn't add the other component which describes it fully, the DICs may not be able to know what exactly it is. So we don't fault them in this case. It is only when you conduct physical examination that you will be able to tell. Again, like I said, beyond that, you need other information to do valuation. Sometimes they make mistakes, even when we also make. If you look into, we also rely on our database in customs, the database of goods that have been imported over the period, and therefore you can see that if you take the range of values which we have, if the values provided by the DICs fall way out of the range that we have for the product, for the period that we are looking at, and sometimes for the same supplier, then naturally, what the suggestion for us is that perhaps we have a challenge with our DIC colleagues, and therefore the alternative is to uplift the prices. I've mentioned the market, I've mentioned our DIC colleagues, I've mentioned fiscal examination. I don't want to talk about other things, but these are the core reasons why
we are connected to the GCNet, and we do all our approval online. Even now we are encouraging the importers to submit all their documents online, but some of them still find it difficult, to scan the documents and submit them. So they are the ones who still come to our office with hard copies. But we don't need those hard copies, because when they put the entry in Tema or in the Kotoka or the Takrady, we also receive it at our office. We were one of the first agencies to connect to this GCNet. So I don't know where people have to go, forward and backwards. And we have got a bank, EcoBank, which receives our payment for us. And we also have an accounting software. We are able to view what is coming in. So this issue is rather, I don't know, maybe it is, I haven't understood it well, or maybe it is something else. But I think my senior colleague from the Standards Authority touched on a lot of the issues that we deal with. We handle meat products. We also give clearance for pesticides, industrial and consumer chemicals, And then also we have what we call some restricted chemicals, which are mostly, we're talking of mercury, we're talking of the plastic granules, sodium cyanide, and then the precursors of narcotic drugs. And we have got what we call the annual clearance system. If an importer knows what they are going to use or what they are going to be bringing into the country for the whole year, they can come and get what we call an annual clearance permit. You do your registration through the GCnet, you list all the chemicals that you are going to bring in 2014, and then we also see the same system in our office, and we give you clearance permit for the whole year after we take our fees. So if you state that you are bringing 10,000 kilograms of chemical A, as you keep bringing it in, the system, the GCnet system will start deducting the quantities. So if the first consignment you bring in 2,000, the GCnet will deduct the 2,000 from the 10,000. And when maybe by August you have exhausted your 10,000, then you have to come and do what we call a supplementary, because maybe you didn't quote your figures well, you see. But the restricted chemicals that I said, the mercury, the sodium cyanide, the precursors, and then the granules, those ones you cannot do annual clearance for them, because we made them restricted for certain reasons. We want to keep track of what is coming in regularly. So for those, you always have to come for the single consignment permit, which is also done through the GCnet. And whatever it is, we are all using what we call the customs code, the HS. So depending on what HS code is given to your product, once the HS code goes into our system, it means that already the customs will ask you that you have to come to EPA, because certain types of products have been given that code, which are in the GCnet.
Sampling by various bodies, registration process, congestion, special import levies, TIFI, among others, were other major concerns raised by business leaders present at the forum.
Register as an importer, first-time importer, fill forms, pay the fees, and then submit it. That's the end. There's no responses received from your outfit. So the handout you even showed, I've never seen it before. I've indicated I import maybe fridges or air conditioners. These requirements for standards or certificate of conformity, you are not told. So goods come to the point of release, standards authority has come in demanding for certificate of conformity. In this case, what?
For a particular container of frozen, maybe, chicken wings. Now you have the FDA drawing samples, you have Standards Board drawing samples, you have EPA drawing samples, and you have the Atomic Energy drawing samples. I could tell you for a fact that I know that EPA does not directly even do any analysis on the samples that are taken. It is taken to the Ghana Atomic Energy, and they do the analysis and just give the report to the Environmental Protection Agency. So you wonder where the samples go. Is Food and Drugs Authority doing any direct analysis on the samples that is drawn? Standards Board, I can stand up for it and say that did. So, when it comes to the number of samples that are being picked, it might come to Standards Board that, they are picking only 2 boxes for a container. But then Food and Drugs Authority is drawing, EPA is drawing, Atomic Energy is drawing. At the end of the day, the number of cartons that you have that have gone out is another story. So we want to find out if this is just duplication or Standards Authority is going to do the analysis for all these agencies, then it will be public knowledge that for every container, maybe you have to pick 2 cartons.
When you forward the sample, importers sometimes are cunning. When these samples are brought to you and you certify that it should be brought, and he decides to bring different things, how do you detect or check? Secondly, I want to how different is your functions to that of Food and Drug Boards? Look, products will be brought, go to Food and Drug Board, Standard Board, all these boards we talk about. And at the end of the day, may, how you want, say, facilitation to go faster. You don't have, you won't get it.
At the end of it all stakeholders called for more collaborative relationship, while participants were also assured that concerns and suggestions raised will be presented to the appropriate authorities. These organizers believe will go a long way to help solve the situation.
Meanwhile, at the forum, Business Television Africa sampled the views of some business executives to find out whether they are satisfied with the response given by representatives of the various authorities.
I think that all the presentations were okay, were good. The interaction is good. The thing is that if they are going to act on them, it's always our issues. Is it not just a talk shop, another talk shop? So basically, with all the presentations that have, gone on, I think they're quite useful, and we hope that they're going to take them in their stride, and then they're going to use them. My fears is it still comes back to, because most of these things are kind of policy issues, and most of the time, the presenters do not actually have those powers to, either change this policy or affect these policies. So those are the fears. Whether when they take these things back to their managements and so on, they actually act on them is another story. So I'm just hoping, comes back to the same thing as just not another talk show.
Some of the agencies and the institutions have to go and address the issues that we talked about. EPA. About this permit issue. There was a typical example. The officer in charge was saying that he has difficulties obtaining the permit, and he enumerated it. Yet the representative of EPA was denying it. You pay, you go there, you have to travel all the way from Tema to Accra EPA office for the permits. And then the permit has to come online. You go back, it is not there. Anytime, you cannot call. You have to go back. And he was standing here denying it. Meanwhile, there were witnesses. It wasn't only one person. They have to address that issue themselves. I believe they have registered members. The importers are registered. Anglo Gold is a registered company under EPA. And you have their contact. So even if they have a mistake in the entry, as you are saying, you should call them or send them a text for them to address it. But if you decide to dump it somewhere, for him to be always moving from Tema to Accra for one issue, then we are not making any headway.
So I'm satisfied with the way they have addressed it, but they should go further. You see, this since we have been meeting them, we have been talking about it, and every time they don't have a follow-up. That is my only problem. My only problem is that when the issues and concerns are raised and they are addressed, there should be a follow-up so that we will know that we start from here, we've reached here, and we will continue to this place. But most of the time, after finishing, nobody follows it up. Well, this one, it seems the people involved have expressed much concern. And as the moderator said, they are going to produce a paper which they will give it to all the people who came around. And then from there, I think we can take it out from there.
Well, it has been a very good forum and well represented by the various stakeholders. And I think the issues raised are also very pertinent to the industry. And we are hoping that now that the Shippers Authority has the legal backing, such forum will be something that will help so that both shippers and all stakeholders in the industry can have a common understanding of what to do to enhance the advancement of this industry. What has happened most of the time is that we end up, most of the agencies, doing things on their own. There's no collaboration. So they take their time to do it. The others are also doing their own thing. So with such forum, they bring all of them together. And through that, there is a level of cohesion in the activities that at the end of it all, it benefits the shipper.
And in a related development, President John Mahama has expressed the hope that the ongoing expansion works at the Tema Harbour will make it the biggest port in West Africa. The president has inaugurated 9 new gentry cranes at the Tema port, an investment of nearly $50 million aimed at improving the efficiency of this terminal. Additionally, according to the president, public-private partnership will be used to ensure that expansion works soon begin at the Tema port. A statement released said it is estimated to cost between $600 and $1 billion, and when achieved, it will make Tema port the biggest and most efficient port not only in West Africa, but probably in the whole of Africa. The Parliamentary Select Committee on Environment has organized a program for implementation on climate change on agriculture and food systems in Accra. The objective was to enhance capacity for climate change and variability-related research and development towards achieving food and nutritional security. Professor Chris Gordon, Director of the Institute for Environment and Sanitation Studies at the University of Ghana, Legon, noted that the effects of climate change will impact on every sector of the economy.
The agric sector is a major contributor to the socio-economic development in Ghana. The sector is second only to the services sector with about 30% of gross domestic product. Several studies have indicated that agric and food systems in Ghana. Experts, however, believe that at the rate by which the climate is being affected as a result of climate change, food production could seriously be affected and in the process affects food supply. It has been observed that climate change and agriculture are interrelated processes, both of which take place on a global scale. Agriculture has been shown to produce significant effect on climate change, primarily through the production and release of greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide, which also destroys the ecosystem. During a discussion at a program organized by the Parliamentary Select Committee on Environment, it was revealed that $35 million will be used to finance projects on climate change between 2014 to 2020.
We have issues of climate risk that can affect business. If you are not climate-proof your business, for example, if you're doing something on food production and your value chain does not factor in the volume of your inputs, you can be affected. But at the other side of the spectrum, you have issues related to the opportunities of climate to business. You have many aspects of this, one of which is renewable energies. The other is in climate-friendly methods of running businesses, improved efficiency in operations. Basically, there are a number of opportunities that companies outside Ghana have managed to bring to bear in such a way that they have maximized the value of the climate dimension to their businesses. Basically, people have now got what they call green business, which focuses around those climate-compatible technologies that can be used in such a way that the company can make profit and provide employment. So as I said, we have two facets. One is the negative impact that climate can have on businesses. The second is the fact that there are many opportunities that businesses can take from climate. There is a third dimension of this. That is, there's significant funding available internationally through the Climate Fund, the Adaptation Fund, the Green Fund, the CDM mechanism, which is actually available to governments and through governments to companies on approaches to mitigate or adapt to climate.
A director at the Institute of Environment and Sanitation Studies at the University of Ghana, Professor Chris Gordon, tells Business Television Africa that there are green businesses which focus around climate and compatible technology that can generate profit and provide employment. Professor Gordon also noted that there is significant funding available internationally through the Climate Fund, Adaptation Fund, the Green Fund, and other mechanisms which are available to government through companies on approaches to mitigate the impact of climate.
It is estimated that approximately 1.3 billion people worldwide have no access to electricity. Furthermore, 27 million people continue to rely on solid fuels such as coal for cooking and heating. This number is expected to rise to 2.8 billion by 2030. There had been growing concerns about climate change as a result of increased greenhouse emissions into the atmosphere. This requires a compromise in the economic and social lives of communities, in the exploitation of natural resources, energy production and utilization, disposal of waste, and technology transfer. At a recent discussion on climate change in Accra, it was revealed that Ghana has adequate potential within the sub-region to develop all its hydropower capabilities.
The general energy supply situation within the African continent is said to be quite deplorable, as power potential within various countries remains largely untapped. In the past, exploitation of traditional energy sources has not augured well for economic development. However, in recent times, there's been a huge drive towards renewable energy generation. This is generally defined as energy that comes from resources which are naturally replenished on a human time scale, such as sunlight, wind, rain tides, waves, and geothermal heat. Renewable energy replaces conventional fuels in 4 distinct areas, which are electricity generation, hot water, space heating, and motor fuels. About 15% of global final energy consumption comes from renewable resources, with 10% of all energy coming from traditional biomass, mainly used for heating, and 3.4% from hydroelectricity. In minimizing gas flaring associated with the oil and gas industry, which is emerging within the West African sub-region, contaminated gases like oxides of nitrogen, carbon, and sulfur, which acidify the soil, depleting soil nutrients, causing soil fertility loss, are reduced. These hazardous air pollutants emitted during incomplete combustion of gas flares also cause adverse health impacts, including cancer, neurological, reproductive, and developmental effects. Deformities in children, lung damages, and skin problems have also been reported. Acid rains have been linked to the activities of gas flaring damaged vegetation.
The greatest challenge we have is to do compliance in a non-compliant system. If you have a non-compliant system, I'll just explain that. If you take all the cars, if you force the police to enforce the law to the letter, all the cars on the road, maybe 10% will be left. So the system is completely non-compliant. And if you have a non-compliant system, enforcement is the most difficult thing to do. You cannot enforce any law. And so one thing that has been emphasized here is promotion. You have to do a very serious compliance promotion driven by knowledge base, in terms of research and development. What can you do? What enabling environment can you really give to make these people compliant? The best, like the road sector, the emissions are going up. We can reduce emissions significantly by just retrofitting engines, by just getting the private sector, giving them new cars, paying over a certain period of time, and then they paying it out of their their fuel reductions. Now these are some policy actions which has been, and these are things that we can actually use to do promotion and enforcement as the legislations come, so that we do not have this problem of trying to enforce things within a very seriously non-compliant systems.
It has been observed that the development of other renewable energy supplies capabilities will help in the long term to overcome its erratic power crisis that is largely undermining socio-economic development.
Now, the Bank of Ghana has indicated that it will review some of the recent foreign exchange measures it introduced to halt the free fall of the Ghana cedi against other major trading currencies. The bank says the review will focus especially on those that are badly affecting businesses. The current banking laws, which were introduced in February this year, require the governor to review these directives after 3 months. The central bank introduced the measures with the aim of stabilizing the Ghana cedi, which lost about 5% of its value to the United States dollar. However, a source close to the bank says the review will not affect all the directives, but just those that have brought some hardships to the enterprises. As part of the directive to halt the cedi, the central bank also directed that all transactions in the country should be conducted in Ghana cedis in compliance with Bank of Ghana notice dated October 10, 2012. The central bank also revised rules governing the operations of foreign exchange accounts (FEA) and foreign currency accounts (FCA) with effect from February 5, 2014. A major headache for businesses in the wake of the Bank of Ghana rules was a directive barring business from withdrawing more than $10,000 over the counter unless such withdrawals were for travel purposes. Meanwhile, Bank of Ghana Governor Henry Kofi Wampa said the central bank's strong intervention to shore up the cedi is beginning to bear fruits, with the currency rate of fall slowing from January's alarming peak. Mr. Wampa said the depreciation has reduced considerably to about 1%, according to the bank's analysis. In his recent article titled "Waking Up from the Pipe Dream" on the West African Gas Pipeline Project, the chief policy analyst for the Ghana Institute for Public Policy Options, GIPO, said instead of begging Nigeria to get some soppy supply, let us absorb the reality and wake up from the West African pipe dream and take bold and decisive steps that ensure a reliable, ample supply of our own gas resources to fuel power plants. In an interview, Dr. Raku Probe said Ghana's Energy Ministry was making excuses for WAPCO for its failure in meeting its gas supply obligation to the country, and noted in his article that Ghana should, as a matter of urgency, open both eyes, wake up from the West African pipe dream. He said Nigeria and WAPCO must be made to pay for the incompetence and self-oversight which led to delays and non-performance that has literally cost Ghana several millions of dollars, in addition to the never-ending dumso. He accused government of not ensuring that the company meets its obligations. Dr. Raku Probe suggested in his article that Ghana should not take Nigeria's behavior lying down. Still on the financial sector, Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement Systems (GIPS) says banks that operate on Microsoft operating systems must upgrade their automated teller machines (ATMs) before the 8th of April 2014 or risk becoming hot targets for cyber hackers. Inside every ATM casing is a computer, and like all such devices, each one runs on an operating system. Microsoft's 12-year-old Windows XP dominates the ATM market, powering more than 95% of the world's ATM machines. A statement issued in Accra by the Ghana Interbank's payment system said banks and ATM service providers are therefore in a race against time to upgrade their ATMs before they become hot targets for hackers. According to the Ghana Interbank Payment System (GIPS), on April 8, 2014, Microsoft will cut off technical support for Windows XP, meaning that there will be no security updates to patch holes in Windows XP, leaving those ATMs operating on it to be exposed to a new kind of cyber attacks. A security update or patch is a piece of software designed to fix problems with a computer program or its supporting data. This includes fixing security vulnerabilities and other bugs, improving the usability of performance of the overall system. Security updates help make the ATM less vulnerable to attacks. Windows 7 operating system became available in October 2009, and therefore banks have no excuse but to update their system to avoid exposing their customers to hackers. The statement noted that the advanced ATM fleet's operating systems in Ghana can be updated remotely over their network, whilst older ATMs must be upgraded one by one. ATMs might either have their components upgraded or discarded altogether if they do not have enough computing power memory to run the newer operating system Windows 7. GIPS warned that banks and other ATM service providers who ignore the deadline will continue to function but will become more vulnerable to attacks. However, Microsoft will continue to release patches that will protect computers running on XP for malware until July 2015, but only for the Microsoft Security Essentials. The statement added that users will need to have downloaded Microsoft Security Essentials before April 8 if they require access. Banks and ATM service providers in Ghana will therefore have to ensure that they comply ahead of the date. Construction of the largest wind power project in Africa is set to take off as financing agreement is finalized. After more than 8 years in the pipeline, the Lake Turkana wind power project has now gathered sufficient winds in its sails to take off. This follows the signing of financial agreements between the Kenya government and various development partners towards the 75 billion shilling 300 megawatt power project. Once it is complete, it will be the largest wind power project in Africa.
Our lenders in this project are several, and they include FMO, DEG, PTA, EADB, EKF, EIB, and PRABHAKAR.
The European Investment Bank is contributing 200 million euros in senior lending to the project. And on top of that, it also provides 25 million in a preferred equity stake.
That contribution, which is over 24 billion shillings, makes the European Investment Bank the largest single lender towards the project.
The European Investment Bank is one of the world's largest financiers of renewable energy. So when it comes to renewable energy, we go the extra mile and we will do everything to make sure that these projects indeed develop.
365 wind turbines from Danish farm Vestas will generate 300 megawatts, forming a crucial addition into Kenya's national grid.
The project alone will represent approximately 20% of Kenya's currently installed capacity. And at 7.52 euro cents per kilowatt hour, or 9 Kenya shillings, it will be one of the cheapest sources of power in Kenya.
The wind farm covers an area of 40,000 acres and is located in Loyangalani district, west of Marsabit County.
At 623 million euros, or 75 billion shillings, it is to date the largest single private investment in the history of Kenya. The project will be able to save Kenya up to $150 million through fuel replacement costs.
The Kenya Electricity Transmission Company, KETRACO, is tasked with building the infrastructure necessary to evacuate the power harvested from the wind farm. With concessional funding from the Spanish government, KETRACO is constructing a double-circuit 400 kilovolt transmission line, which will stretch for 428 kilometers to deliver power from the site.
Most of those transmission lines have already got funding. The challenge that I want to put in the hands of the CEO of KETRACO is to make sure that these projects are delivered in time.
Currently, only 3 out of 10 Kenyans have power. The first 150 megawatts from the wind farm is expected to be delivered in 2 years' time.
The Nyeri coffee dispute has been resolved after signing of an agreement between farmers and county government. The Kenya Cooperative Coffee Exporters KCCE in Sagana in the county of Nyeri got the go-ahead to officially begin trading Nyeri coffee following an agreement signed between the Nyeri County government and the Commercial Coffee Millers and Marketing Agents Association. This agreement was intended to end the dispute surrounding the country's directive that all its coffee farmers sell their coffee through KCCE Sagana.
When the county of Nyeri directed its coffee farmers to take their coffee to KCCE in Sagana, the backlash was instant. And what followed was a series of public accusations and counter-accusations among the local leaders, coffee cooperatives and the governor. That dispute has lasted for the better part of this year, with the main point of disagreement being how the mills that are already in contractual agreements with the farmers will be compensated. And now the Ministry of Agriculture says that is not a problem anymore.
The county government guarantees that once the coffee that has been consolidated and sold, once they are sold, the money will be paid. The amount is about 131 million shillings.
To end the dispute, the Nyeri government has signed a deal with the Commercial Coffee Millers and Marketing Agents Association in the presence of the Agriculture Cabinet Secretary, a deal that obligates all the parties involved to work together. Some mills had raised concern that asking the farmers to shift to a central mill in Sagana will adversely affect their business in terms of milling capacity, concerns that Nyeri says have no basis.
I don't think any particular mill will be that adversely affected because all that coffee was not being milled in one. It was like shared between 5 or 6 around the country.
The decision to market Nyeri coffee centrally and through direct sale, the governor says, is intended to diversify the coffee market, a plan that other coffee-growing counties are looking to adopt. So far, KCCE Sagana has consolidated 6,000 metric tons of coffee.
Now, reports from Kenya say hoteliers in the coast are raising concerns over what they term as a steady decline in tourist numbers and bookings. Insecurity or fears of it is said to be the latest cause of the decline in numbers of foreign tourists, though hoteliers are drawing some consolation from the apparent rise in numbers of local tourists.
It is a clear Wednesday morning. The ocean is somewhat calm, and so far our roughly hour-long excursion has been smooth sailing. We are some 40 kilometers off Kenya's south coastline, watching the waters keenly for a unique mammal. In fact, there is a 90% chance you will spot one. And suddenly, the fin of a dolphin pierces the surface of the turquoise ocean water. Our guide tells us we got lucky today. Half a dozen boats full of tourists gather to get a glimpse and even have a swim with the dolphins at the Kisite Mpunguti Marine Park every day. Visitors can get a closer view of the marine life with a 30-minute scuba diving tour of the park that comes as part of a package deal with Charlie's Claw, a rustic-style restaurant right on the shores of Wasini Island. Fresh seafood from crabs to the catch of the day are all in plenty, but lately the visitors have not been. And things are not smooth sailing on the mainland either. Chris Modigal has worked in Kenya's tourism industry since the 1970s and runs the Leopard Beach Resort and Spa in Diani. He says the industry has suffered setbacks in recent times.
We will never be able to quantify lost bookings, lost business, people who just can't be bothered to book Kenya as a result of Westgate and as a result of other security scares we had in this country. Security and our image are one of our biggest problems because the two of them automatically lead to negative travel advisories.
Kenya's safari products also took a hit last year after the 16% hike in park and conservancy fees brought on by VAT. This has seen Tanzania win big, with the Serengeti Reserve serving as a cheaper alternative to the Masai Mara.
We are the combination to safaris. The days when Mombasa accounted for 60% of all arrivals in Kenya, those days are gone. But that doesn't mean they cannot come back.
Last year, Diani Beach made CNN Travel's World's 100 Best Beaches list, ranking 56 for its pristine shores, seaweed-free waters, and coral reef. But even with Kenya's picturesque beaches, funding to market them is lacking.
GOK funding is to the tune of 745 million Kenya shillings.
In 2012, Kenya spent 1 billion shillings to market itself. This is compared to South Africa that spent 2 billion shillings and Egypt's 3.5 billion shillings. Kenya's tourism sector has faced a series of booms and busts over the years, not having fully recovered from the impact of the 2007-2008 post-election violence. The Ministry of Tourism and stakeholders are, however, borrowing a leaf from South Africa that has managed to really leverage on business and conference tourism to buffer against the seasonal slumps.
One big facility will be built at the cost that will cater for 5,000 delegates at any one sitting, and also an exhibition center. We think this will attract a totally different tourist, one that will come to, for conferencing. A tourist will spend a bit more.
Efforts are being made to revive Kenya's tourism sector and return it to its former glory through the newly formed Tourism Recovery Strategy Committee.
My vision for 2014 is to survive. The next 5 years very much depend on the political will, how best our industry can join forces with the government to turn the ship around. And both of us ready to invest, because without doing so, we will sink and a lot of people will lose jobs.
Members of the public and civil servants can now access supplementary details about their Integrated Financial Management Information System, IFMIS, at the click of a button following a revamp of the IFMIS website. As currently designed, the public will, however, not be able to monitor how their counties spend funds through the website.
Unveiling the strategic plan for the Integrated Financial Management Information System, IFMIS, runs up to 2018. IFMIS is an automated system which enables government departments and agencies to manage their finances through an online platform, hence curbing misuse of funds.
All the 47 counties are now connected to the IFMIS system, which they are using for their transactions.
The previous method of handling finances through a manual system was prone to abuse, resulting in the misappropriation of funds. The Controller of Budget had this to say about the adoption of IFMIS at the county level on the 23rd of January this year, when she appeared before the Senate Committee on Finance.
There are others that are deliberately using the manual system. Yes, deliberately using the manual system when the IFMIS system is working.
I sought to find out the current level of uptake of IFMIS from the Cabinet Secretary at the National Treasury.
I think 90% or 95% they are actually using IFMIS, just a few itches, but that is because of the connectivity challenges.
IFMIS was launched in 2003 and underwent significant changes in 2011 to make it more effective.
That's the IFMIS homepage.
The Cabinet Secretary for Devolution and Planning, Anne Waigoro, was instrumental in having IFMIS gain traction within government circles in her previous role at the Treasury in the last government.
Now moving across to the north of Africa, a North Korean flagged oil tanker that a Libyan militia illegally loaded with crude oil has returned to Libya. U.S. forces seized the vessel last week off the Mediterranean island of Cyprus, stopping an attempt by Libyan rebels to sell the crude oil in defiance of the government in Tripoli. Rebel forces in the eastern Libya port of Sid had loaded an estimated 234,000 barrels of oil onto the Morning Glory, worth around $24 million. The return of the tanker is a rare victory for Tripoli, which is struggling to end a port blockade by rebels, one of many challenges facing the central government that has failed to secure the North African country 3 years after the fall of Muammar Gaddafi. Meanwhile, North Korea has denied responsibility for the tanker. And on that note, we draw the curtains down on our business stories. Now, before we finally go, another look at our headlines. The Ghana Shippers Authority has organized a consultative meeting between key stakeholder authorities to help combat challenges confronting importers and exporters. Also, the Parliamentary Select Committee on the Environment has organized a program for implementation of climate change on agriculture and food systems in Accra. Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement Systems (GIPS) says banks that operate on Microsoft operating systems must upgrade their automated teller machines (ATMs) before the 8th of April 2014 or risk being targets for cyber attacks. And after many years of delay, construction of the largest wind power project in Africa is set to take off as financing agreement is finalized. Thanks so much for your company. My name is Emmanuel Abwaji-Rafi.
More related port authorities and other institutions have been too rigid with checks at the port of entry and have subjected importers and exporters through many checks, therefore delaying good clearance in the process. These and many other challenges are what compel the Ghana Shippers Authority to bring together key stakeholders such as the Ministry of Trade and Industry, Ghana Standard Authority, the Food and Drug Authority, representatives from Customs Excise and Preventive Service, the Environmental Protection Authority, and the Ghana Ports and Harbour Authority, among others, to spell out their core mandate and to also answer questions from importers and exporters with regards to trade facilitation. The Chief Executive Officer of Ghana Shippers Authority, Dr. Kofi Mbia, explained the importance of such a forum.
This meeting particularly is in consonance with the Ghana Shippers Authority Regulations LI 2190. You would all recall that for quite some time now, we've been trying to look for a legal framework that would allow us to engage a lot more, because we believe that if we engage a lot more, if we share information, if we educate our stakeholders, we can remove some of the bottlenecks that attend to the business of international trade and transport. You all know the year 2013 was a very difficult year. We had a number of challenges. Despite all of those difficulties, we had a lot of congestion at the ports. There were a number of issues that were brought to the fore. I'm sure almost all the stakeholders here have played a part in ensuring that we streamline our procedures for clearance at the ports so that we can, in total, reduce
Hello, here are business stories on Business Television Africa. I am Emmanuel Abuajiriafe. Coming up in this bulletin, the Ghana Shippers Authority has organized a consultative meeting between key stakeholder authorities to help combat challenges confronting importers and exporters. Also, the Parliamentary Select Committee on the Environment has organized a program for implementation of climate change on agriculture and food systems in Accra. Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement Systems (GIPS) says banks that operate on Microsoft operating systems must upgrade their automated teller machines (ATMs) before the 8th of April 2014 or risk being targets for cyber attacks. And after many years of delay, construction of the largest wind power project in Africa is set to take off as financing agreement is finalized. Now the details. Importers and exporters are persistently confronted with a number of challenges which negatively impact on revenue generation in the country. To address some of these challenges, the Ghana Shippers Authority has organized a consultative meeting between key stakeholder authorities to seek ways of combating such challenges.
In recent times, Ghana importers and exporters have endured the consequences of congestion at the port as they try to clear goods. As a result, they have no other choice but to pay increased demurrage for keeping their wares beyond port stipulated holding times. Furthermore,
I believe it is 100% genuine. My declaration is genuine and it's 100% genuine. We want to get to the stage where the DIC can say, they beat their chest and say, when you drop your document here, in 12 hours, you would get your document back full and complete. Those are the things which we outline, which should be benchmarks that we should be aiming at. I keep saying that going forward, we should be looking at an industry that allows people to sit in the comfort of their offices, do all their entries, make their payments in their offices, and only have a driver drive their container to where they need them to be. That is where we ought to be getting to. We need to get to a stage where once you have imported and you are informed that your goods have arrived, you know that at most within 24 hours, your cargo would be on the premises or the location where you want it. And I believe this consultative machinery should help us to figure out some of the key elements that we need to address to streamline the process so that we create efficiency for the business. That efficiency should lead us to reduce the cost of doing business and consequently make us competitive not only within West Africa but in the global arena.
Various bodies and agencies were also given the opportunity to explain how they operate and the challenges currently confronting them.
First thing for any importer is to register. We realize people who are not registering. We want to know the importers and do risk analysis for the importers as well as the products and the origin of the product. I'm sure you are aware that certain products, when they come from certain countries, you will want to withdraw from them. Certain products too, you want to withdraw from them. And certain importers, the way they...
The cost of doing business at our ports, make our ports more competitive as far as the sub-region is concerned. And I would say that the efforts have been laudable. There's been some improvement, but I can also tell you that there still remain a lot of road to cover. You know, we instituted new measures in the course of last year with respect to scanning, with respect to the movement of trucks, tracking. All of these still have not solved the problems in their totality. Recently, I had opportunity to meet with the executives of the Greater Accra Shipper Committee, and they brought a number of problems to the fore. So, looking at the mandate given us under LI 2190, the regulations, we thought it would be appropriate to hold a consultative meeting such as this, highlight some of the key issues, those that we believe we can address by ourselves through education. We provide that education to the other players, because we have here those who provide the services and those who consume particular services. The idea behind this interaction is to ensure that those who provide the services can provide adequate information for those who consume the services. So the consumers of the services become aware of the procedures which have been outlined and which are being followed. We still continue to have a number of challenges in that regard, especially when I talk about the destination inspection companies and the complaints which we receive regarding importers and exporters. We have emphasized that we need to get to the stage where importers can beat their chest and say, my invoice is genuine. And
behave. We should know them. So you register. Registration is not closed. It is opened throughout the year. All we are saying is pick a form, register, tell us the products that you want to import. The first three, you can add to the list any time. But people do not do it. So we found a way out. We've linked up with GCNet. If you are not registered, the GCNet will not make itself available for you to clear your products. And you see people running to us. At the last quarter of the year, you just give us an idea. Even if you say you import fridges and you are not importing fridges, you can inform us, we will change. That's why I said it is not closed. It's open all the time. So let us know. So the first thing, for the miners, I don't think we have a specific, it is the same procedures that the miners will have to follow. Register with us, tell us what products you are bringing in throughout the year, and the list which is opened, you can add to it, you can take it out, so additions and subtraction is opened. And the procedure after you've registered, the standards, we are not using standards. And my friends, if we don't go by standards in all aspects of activities in the country, we are bound to fail. People have used standards in everything. Doctor was telling us when they want to do microanalysis or whatever, they have a standard, they go to where they have to go. After you have registered, you should buy the standard. It is not expensive. Buy the standards, know what the specifications are required for whichever product you want.